persons attending this meeting, and that is truly impressive for a Sunday evening meeting. So I'm so glad that you have taken the pains to set this time apart to be with for this session. So let's go to the session. Let me try sharing my screen. I hope I'm audible enough.
Yes, you are, Uncle. Yes.
Is the screen visible? Yes, okay. So what I intend to do is today cover 7 action words in the New Testament for husband and wife. So I hope that these 7 words will remain with you at the end of the session. And let us begin. So actually, these 7 words may be a reminder to you of many things that you have already heard before. But I think it is very important because these 7 words actually form the foundation for a good family life. And if the foundation is strong, your family will be strong. So you may be happy to see this foundation in Kerala. It is not usual to see this similar type of foundation out there in the US, but this is the belt being done. So the first word that I would like to consider is the word leave. In Genesis chapter 2, verse 24, we read this verse and we find that therefore the man shall leave his father and mother. Now, the instruction to leave and to cleave is addressed to the man. Now, that doesn't mean that there are no implications for the wife too. There are implications for the wife too. But a very important sentence that I have put in bold red here is that if a man fails to make a clean break with his parents, the emerging marriage suffers and the wife is pitted against her in-laws. I think this is more important for families from Kerala because leaving is sort of a natural thing in American culture. Even, in fact, the young boys and girls leave even before marriage. But in our culture, that is more difficult. So this is important for us to know that it is the man's responsibility to initiate the process of leaving, to take leadership in that matter. Now, leaving involves headship, the new family. The husband is the head of the new family. It involves financial leaving. That doesn't mean that you cannot take any money from your parents or in-laws, but the new house, the new family is to be self-sustaining. It should be, you should learn to live within what you have. And there is also emotional leaving, which is usually more difficult for the wife, but it is also to take place. And all this is usually facilitated by physical leaving. So I'm sure there are exceptions, but we must always understand exceptions to be exceptions. There will be cases when the parents are too old and cannot take care of themselves and so on. So there are exceptions, but the exception does not mean that the norm should be compromised on. So, and I think we need to teach parents also to give the space so that they need to learn to give that space. They need to learn not to be intrusive into the new family, and they should facilitate appropriate leaving. In fact, I would be happy if churches began sessions for parents whose children are leaving or getting married, so that they would be educated on how to allow and how to facilitate this process of leaving. So the first word is leave. And almost with the same breath, I must say the second word is honor your parents, because this is an instruction given to all of us, whether a child or adult, married or single, we must honor our parents and we must take care of them. So I want you to realize that honor and obedience are not the same. We must seek and give careful consideration to parental advice. We must ask for their advice. We must listen to them. But if you find that there is a conflict between God's will and your parents or your in-laws' desire or advice, then you must obey God. That is what the Bible clearly says. You must obey God at the cost of not going by the advice of your parents. But it is possible to do this in a very respectful manner. So there must be leaving and there must be honor. But honor is not the same as obedience. There may be occasions when you may choose to disobey what your parents have said to you, but you do it in an honorable manner. Now, the instruction for children is constant: obey your parents. After that comes the verse, honor your father and mother. So honor is for a child of any age, but obey your parents in the Lord is for children probably before they reach adulthood. Now, my mother actually lived with my family from the age of 83 to 94 for 10 years. Now, until 83, she was actually healthy enough to live on her own, and we allowed that to happen. But when she came to live with us, I made sure that she was not the head of the house. I was the head, and I protected my wife from her. I'm just citing this as an example that if the husband's mother or father is living with the family, it is the husband's responsibility to protect his wife from intrusive parents. And on the other hand, if the wife's mother or father is living with the family, it is the wife's responsibility to ensure that her husband is still the boss in the house. So we have to learn to draw very clear boundaries and to be assertive. And very often, love must be tough, yet love must be gentle. So love is actually a very strong word in the Bible. It is a commandment. It is to be obeyed. And God's love is tough love, and yet God is gentle on us. Likewise, love must be tough if we have to protect our families. Now, the third word is found in the same verse, Genesis 2:24. It is cleave. And here too, we read, therefore, the man shall cleave unto his wife. So once again, the responsibility seems to be on the man. Now, cleaving implies that work or children, ministry, friends, social media, hobbies, all these things must not be allowed to make a wedge in the bonding of husband and wife. I think this is a major struggle that many young couples are facing today in the modern world. At my home church, we have a brother who actually refused promotions in his job in order to be with his wife. I greatly appreciate that. I believe that his values were right. And I, for example, could have done my PhD in another university, leaving my wife and children to stay somewhere and me going away. But I instead chose to do my PhD in the same university so that it would allow me to be with my wife and my children. I'm just citing examples of how we have to learn to take tough decisions and live counterculture. The culture may not encourage this, and friends and family may even ask, why are you taking such decisions? But when our values are right, I think we take godly decisions. So in order to protect cleaving, it is good to have certain family rituals, maybe one evening in the week. Maybe it should be exclusively couple time. And maybe the children should know that this is daddy's and mommy's time. So they're going to eat out together and we are not going to get much of that time. Or maybe there should be a daily walk routine where, the husband and wife go out for a walk or something like that. There must be certain rituals that are nurtured and protected in order to ensure that cleaving takes place in your family. Now, women are actually extremely hard to decode. When a wife confronts the husband gets the feel that she is trying to control him. And he feels suffocated by her lack of respect for him. In fact, the wife may be confronting you only to connect with you. And that is where it becomes so difficult to decode the wife's behavior. So very often the husband will have to take this message by faith because he is not able to see it in his wife when the wife is confronting him, but he may have to assume that his good-willed wife appears negative and offensive when she is actually crying out for attention. So she actually wants to cleave, she wants your love. So this, in my experience of marriage counseling, has been something extremely difficult for husbands to understand and decode. Now, in Ephesians chapter 5, verse 25, we come to the fourth important word, which is sacrificial love. And this has been given to the husbands. Husbands, love your wives, just as Christ loved the church and gave himself for it. Well, you can see the standard set is very, very high. We are to love our wife as Christ loved the church. Christ loved the church by giving himself as a sacrifice. So for a husband, the standard of love is we have to die to ourselves. We have to give up our own rights and privileges. Just as sheep being taken for slaughter, we must offer ourselves to our wife. So that is the standard. I want husbands to realize that the standard is extremely high and that anything that they do will probably never reach the standard that God has set for this. The headship of the husband is to be servant leadership. That is the only model of leadership approved by Jesus Christ in the Bible. When sacrificial love and servant leadership are found in the husband, submission will come naturally to the wife. So if husbands focus on the responsibility that is given to them, they can change the situation at home. They can make the family an experience, a slice of heaven on earth. I'm very confident of that. Now let's go to the responsibility specifically assigned to the wife. Ephesians 5 verse 24 says the wife must be subject or must submit. Let the wives be subject to their own husbands in everything. Now, here again, the example of being subject is the manner in which the Lord Jesus Christ subjected himself to the Father. In both the husband's case and in the wife's case, our example is Jesus Christ himself. Jesus Christ's submission to the Father was voluntary. He emptied himself. I've given the reference verses for you there in the slide. It was complete. We read at times he said, "Not my will, but your will be done." And it did not affect his sense of equality or self-esteem. Philippians 2 verse 6 tells us very clearly that he did not regard equality something to be usurped. And at the end of it all, in Philippians 2:9, we read that Jesus Christ was promoted in power and authority. So this is the example for wives. Their submission to the husband must be voluntary. It must be complete. There may be times when she doesn't agree to what the husband has chosen to do, but she ought to say, just as Christ said to the Father, not my will, but your will be done. And this submission should not affect her sense of equality. She is equal before God in being a believer, in being a child of God. Nothing should affect her self-esteem in this matter. And as a result of this submission, I'm confident and sure that the husband will give her more power and authority to take decisions at home. And naturally, this type of submission is counterculture. Now, I want you to note that often in wedding ceremonies, especially in Kerala, when they read this passage from Ephesians 5, they skip Ephesians 5 verse 21 and they start reading from verse 22 onwards. Whereas in verse 21, the instruction is submit to one another in the fear of the Lord. So, we are to submit to one another. Husbands need to submit to God the Father, to Jesus Christ. There is that hierarchy. But all of us need submission. It's not something exclusively for women. Submission is for men also. Now, it's important, as Ginu was saying in his introductory remarks, that family is under attack. And family is under attack by feminism and by patriarchy also. Both feminism and patriarchy are wrong. Jesus did not consider equality with God something to be grasped. So the wife should not allow feminism to negatively influence them. The husband must examine how much of their behavior and expectations are influenced by the male-dominated patriarchal culture that we have in Kerala, something that even though we move to the West, we take our culture with us. So I think it's important for both the husband and wife to examine what has been happening in their lives in these contexts. So wife, do not allow yourself to be victims of patriarchy. If you are a victim of verbal or physical abuse, precipitate the issue. Don't wait. Inform your parents or your in-laws. Inform mature and wise relatives. Inform the civic and church authorities. The more you postpone precipitating an issue, the more you will be victimized. So there are times when if the wife is being a victim of the husband, she will have to move to a safe place. It is important that the wives learn to be assertive, but at the same time, they need to be humble before the Lord also. Now, the sixth word is respect in Ephesians chapter 5, verse 33. Now, I want to read the amplified version of the Bible, and this instruction is to the wife. The amplified version of the Bible says, let the wife see that she respects and reverences her husband, that she notices him, regards him, honors him, prefers him, venerates and esteems him, and that she defers to him, praises him, and loves and admires him exceedingly. This is the benefit of the Amplified Bible. You find synonyms for the same word in different words used to explain the same thing. So I believe this is a very, very important aspect. Wives must learn to communicate respectfully. Now, this involves speaking to your husband in a tone that is polite and courteous. Sometimes after the few days of honeymoon, all this politeness and courtesy just goes out of the window. Even when disagreements arise, that politeness and courtesy must be there. So avoid using harsh or condescending language that will undermine the husband's self-esteem. Now, the wives must learn to honor the husband's decision. Even if you do not always agree with your husband's choices, you must respect his right to make decisions for himself and for the family. So avoid belittling or criticizing his choices. I know that this is easier said than done, but I think that if wives can focus to change in this one area, that itself will make a lot of change in their family life. I want also you to notice that times have changed, but templates have not changed. You know, my dad never worked in the kitchen. My mom always served food to my dad. My mom never called dad by name. And I've never seen my dad and mom hold hands or eat out together. This is what I have seen in my parents. But today things have changed. You know, husbands share in the kitchen chores. They change baby diapers. They put baby to sleep. They cook food. They hold hands. They eat out. Praise God, these are good changes that have happened. But in the process, I want today's wife to know that her husband is probably being deprived of some forms of respect that they once saw their mom give their dad. I hope you will understand this very carefully. The world has changed in such a way that women are getting a better place, a better respect. Men are being more involved in things of the family than that they have seen in their parents. But in the process, wives should be conscious that their husbands are being deprived of forms of respect that they once saw their mom give their dad. So unconditional respect is the key to renew your married life. You know, it is not conditional. Okay, if he does this, I will respect him. No, it is unconditional. So we must work to maximize expressions of honor and respect in the husband and wife relationship. You must actually compete to outdo each other in visible, genuine, verbal, and non-verbal expressions of respect. You know, that should be the goal of your married life, whether it is in public or in private, when no one is watching. You know, true spirituality is measured at home. You just need to ask the children, and they will give you a right understanding of what family life is like at your home. So examine the words that you use, examine the tone of your voice, examine the grumpy expression on your face. All these are powerful communicators, and we must be willing to change. So examine how you talk to others about your spouse. Do not belittle them with jokes and put downs. You know, we often take this lightly, but it does a lot of damage to our family life. The seventh word is to live with understanding. In 1 Peter chapter 3, verse 7, once again, I have taken the Amplified Version. Husbands, live with your wives in an understanding way, with great gentleness and tact, and with an intelligent regard for the marriage relationship, as with someone physically weaker, since she is a woman. Now, the bonus offered in that passage is that your prayers will not be hindered. If you read that passage in your Bible, you will find that this bonus is offered there. Now, it actually takes a lifetime to understand your wife, because men and women are very different. But I would encourage you to accept and celebrate the differences. And I would recommend that you give up the attempt to forge uniformity, because God loves diversity. So even in spirituality, men and women can be different, husband and wife can be different. So just allow that difference to coexist and to make your life or your family more beautiful because of the diversity that is in it. Don't try to make the husband like the wife or the wife like the husband. Let that diversity provide a colored life for your children and for the rest of society. So I'm actually asking you to give space and freedom. Possessiveness is not true love. Where there is love, there is true freedom. You begin to breathe easy. So when you give space to each other, I think a lot of change happens in the family, in the relationship. Now, what is true freedom is very important for us to understand. Freedom is the ability to do what God wants you to do. Many people, especially young people, have understood freedom to be the ability to do anything they want to do. That is not freedom. True freedom is the ability to do what God wants you to do. And what God wants you to do is given for us in the scripture. Now, the only technique that is approved in the New Testament for the wife to use is given in 1 Peter chapter 3, verse 1. Husbands must be one without a word. I think it's a very important technique that the scripture tells us. You cannot change your husband by preaching, nagging, and grumbling. You can change your husband only by your respectful behavior. That is what the scripture clearly teaches. And it cannot be wrong because it's God's word. So I want to encourage you to try this technique, to wait on the Lord to bring about behavioral change, and you will be surprised it works because it is God's word. Now, duties and roles and responsibilities may differ. The roles of breadwinner and homemaker can be shared, but the Bible specifically mentions the husband as the primary breadwinner and the wife as the primary homemaker. Now, husbands and wives should provide for each other companionship of the most intimate form, including sexual intimacy. Sex is a duty. Sex can never be enjoyed if the spouse is always bickering and complaining or is exhausted from office or housework. So I think we have to be extremely careful about these things. And the husband and wife should protect their marriage bond from external threats. They have the responsibility to do that. And children, parents, and work should never take priority over the spouse. This is one area which I'm very much concerned about because we live in an age where there is so much threat in terms of priority, and the spouse actually does not get the priority. Other things are getting the priority. I also want you to notice that all instruction on child rearing in the Bible is actually addressed to the fathers. You can search the verses and you will find that both in the Old Testament and in the New Testament, the responsibility for bringing up children, the instruction is addressed to the fathers. But unfortunately, in today's families, fathers have abdicated this role to the mother. Now, what sustains a biblical marriage? Romance will fade, the honeymoon will end, chemistry will become history, but the covenant will remain. It is a promise that you made to God to be a loving and faithful husband or wife until death do part, for better or for worse, for richer or for poorer, in sickness and in health. This is a promise that you did not make to your wife or to your husband, but a promise that you made to God. And what sustains a biblical marriage is a strong-willed determination of both the husband and the wife to submit to this divine design for marriage. As I mentioned earlier in this slide, romance will fade, the honeymoon will end, but the covenant will remain. And it is our commitment to that covenant that will sustain the family. Now, in a fallen world, we should not expect perfection. One born-again sinner marries another born-again sinner. After a few years, 2 or 3 new sinners are born into that family. And you cannot expect 5 sinners living under one roof to be heaven. Many young couples walk away from what is good and possible in this fallen world simply because they entered into marriage with unrealistic expectations. Unfortunately, today's young couples enter into marriage with unrealistic expectations. The only promise in the New Testament for those who desire to get married is that they shall have times of trouble. 1 Corinthians chapter 7, verse 3 to 7. You see, the Bible is very, very realistic. So we should have realistic expectations from marriage. We cannot expect perfection from our marriage, but we know that we are living in a fallen world. The purpose of marriage is not happiness, but holiness. Through marriage, whether you are married or single, through marriage, God makes us and molds us into the image of his Son. So I want to recap those 7 words before moving on. Leave parents, honor parents, cleave to your spouse, love sacrificially, be subject, respect, and understanding. So these are the 7 words that we considered today, but I would like to further reduce these 7 words to just 2 words, love and respect. The husband must labor. Labor is hard work to give his wife the unconditional love that she most desires. In the love language that she wants, love language can be different. It could be words of affirmation. It could be quality time. It could be physical touch. It could be acts of service, or it could be receiving gifts. Likewise, the wife must labor, work hard to give her husband the unconditional respect that he desperately needs. And if each of you make the tiniest adjustments in these 2 areas, you will be surprised by the results in your married life. I want you to notice that those 7 words I am now concising into 2 words, love and respect. Love is vital for a marriage, but love is not enough. Respect is a desperate need for today's marriages. Now, very often, our marriages look like this circle. Without love from him, the yellow rectangle, she reacts without respect because she is not receiving love from him. And when she reacts without respect, he responds without love. This cycle is a crazy cycle, and it keeps going. And the husband and wife go round and round saying and doing the same wrongful and hurtful things. Now, the application question is, how does this crazy circle start? It may be the wife yelling from the kitchen, or it may be the husband slamming the door as he left for office. A simple thing may be the beginning of this crazy cycle. Now, how can you slow it down? How can this eventually be brought to a halt in your family life, who will take the first initiative? Don't wait for your spouse. Be the first one to show more love and respect. So I am concising those 7 words into these 2 words. And if nothing else remains in your memory after this session, I hope that at least these 2 words will remain. Well, I have concluded my talk, and now is the time for question and answers. But I also want you to do something. As we wait for the questions, I am requesting all of you to post in the chat box practical ways to show more love and respect. And I want to encourage all of you to please post 1 or 2 answers. Both husbands and wives can post their suggestions. Husbands can mention how the wife can show respect, and wives can mention how the husband can show love, or it can be the other way around. Husbands can share how they can show love, or wives can share how they can show respect. But I want all of you to keep flooding, let us provoke one another with as many new ideas. And please be honest and candid and as creative as you can be. I will be stopping the sharing of these slides, but the session is now open for questions. And even as we wait for the questions, please flood the chat box with your responses so that we will be encouraged by each other. So thank you very much for giving me the precious evening time of your Sunday to listen to me. My email ID and my phone number, WhatsApp number is given there. I will soon be stopping the sharing, and we will stop to listen to your responses. Those of you who want can unmute yourself and ask a question, or you can post a question in the chat box. Maybe if I don't see the question, maybe Ginu or somebody will bring it up to my attention. So 40 were there in the beginning and 40 are still there. 40 is a biblical number.
If anyone wants to ask questions, I have given the option to unmute yourself and ask questions if you would like.
Don't forget your responsibility to fill the chat box with your responses on how you can show respect and love. നാട്ടിലുള്ള ഒരു ഓഡിയൻസ് ആണെങ്കിൽ മൗനം ഞാൻ പ്രതീക്ഷിക്കും. നിങ്ങളൊക്കെ ഉത്തരമൊക്കെ പറയണം. I have a different expectations from an audience that is on the other side of the hemisphere. I think we probably need to stop the recording for the so people to feel free to ask questions.